Good evening. MA Philosophy MPY001 Block number 5 Unit number 3 Indian Ethics Objectives. The objective of this study is on Indian ethics is to give a short survey on the ethical foundation of Hindu religious philosophy and of the other philosophical schools of India like Buddhism, Jainism and Charvak. The primary purpose of this unit is to impart the religious and moral instruction to the students of philosophy and to make them aware of the principles of religions, and finally to make them adapt certain good principles and avoid certain distributing elements in order to create a healthy and a peaceful society. Introduction. Traditional Indian thinking is mainly spiritualistic, with a firm belief that man has a soul within him as his real being. This soul aspect of human person puts before him a goal higher than any other goal to which our natural physical inclinations lead. So man has to adopt a particular point of view which helps him go towards the higher spiritual plane, the plane of his real inner being, soul. So adopting the moral point of view is the view human point of view to attain the goal of the inner being of man, namely soul. Vedic and Vedantic schools of ethics. Here we shall discuss an outline of the ethical vision of moral content of five representative Vedic and Vedantic texts, namely Vedas, the Upanishads, the laws of Manu, the Gita, and the Ramayana. The beginnings of ethical vision is traced from the Vedas, particularly Rig Veda. Concept of Rita, the concept of Dharma, and the concept of Karma become the central moral principles emerging from the Vedas. In the Upanishads, the Atman-centric understanding of morality takes precedence. The self-realization as moksha is the highest goal reached by good conduct and pursuit of knowledge. The Smriti literatures like Shastras, especially Dharma Shastras, and moral codes and law books from the Vedic and Vedantic traditions. The practical guidelines and strict injunctions are found for human conduct with respective rights and duties in Manusmriti. Although from the caste categories, the Dharmashastras, epics, and the Puranas have their own specific goal, but they seem to share more or less a common ethos from the point of ethics. The ethics teach ethical ideals and thoughts of Hindu system. Much celebrated text of Bhagavad Gita focuses on moral actions coupled with attaining Brahmagyan. Gita emphasizes both Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga for the attainment of the supreme bliss. Besides all the scriptural texts, the philosophical schools of Vedic and Vedantic traditions have focused well on the ethical concepts and conduct based on their metaphysical and epistemological positions, putting them all in one category despite the subtlety of differences. We have the following concepts. Doctrine of karma. Karma is of four categories. The number one, sanchita karma, which mean the accumulated past actions. Number two, prarabdha karma, which means the part of sanchita karma. This results in the present birth itself. This is also called predestination. Number three, kriyaman karma, which means the present willful actions of free will. Number four, agami karma, which means the immediate result caused by our present actions. There is another version of the meaning of karma. This word karma simply means action, and this karma must remind us that what is called the consequence of an action is really not a separate thing, but it is a part of the action, and it cannot be divided from it. The consequence is the part of the action which belongs to the future, but yet the part is done in the present. For instance, when a person is wounded at the time of accident, he will not feel any pain, but after some time, when he is quiet, he will feel the pain. Pain is the part of the action falling down and wounding, but it is felt later through done in the present. When a man sins, he feels no suffering at the time of sinning, but later he feels the suffering. Thus, we can conclude the theory of karma, saying whatever a man sows, he shall reap. Transmigration of soul. The doctrine of karma and transmigration of soul. The doctrine of karma and transmigration of soul are so closely bound up together After the death of the body, the life of the individual is continued in another body, and so on in indefinite series. According to this theory, the soul, though pure and blessed in itself, gets entangled in the samsara cycle of birth and rebirth. It is because of the karma it passes through innumerable births, transmigration before it regains its original state. The purpose and mechanism of rebirth is elaborated in the Chandogya Upanishad. According to Chandogya Upanishad, a man after his death reaches the moon with the merit he has acquired during his life. He remains there as long as there is a reside of his good works, and when he returns to space from space, he goes to mist and cloud etc. After having become cloud, he rains down. Then he is born and rises trees, beans, etc. If someone or the other eats him as food, he develops further, and finally, those who are of pleasant conduct enter either the bomb of a Brahman or a Kshatri or a Vaishya, and those who are of stinking conduct enter either the bomb of a dog or of a swine or of an outcast chandala. Supreme goals Purusharthas, the dominant interest of the Indian thought in it is in the highest value of human life. There are four values which give meaning to human life. They are called Purusharthas. Number one, Dharma. Number two, Artha. Number three, Kama, and number four, Moksha. Dharma. The term Dharma gathered from more and more meaning down and ages, and it became a term of complex and varies meaning. For Dharma, the dictionary suggests that the term like virtue, righteousness, duty, right, morality, justice, good characteristics, tradition, ordinance, and law, etc. But dharma is essentially a human value operating in the universe of human ideals. The Brihadaranyaka Upanishad identifies dharma with truth, that which is justice is truth, and justice and truth are the same. Sanskara, in his own way, in interrelate the three concepts Rita, Satya, and Dharma. He says Rita is a mental perception of truth, Satya is the expression of truth in words as perceived by the mind, Dharma is the absence of truth in the conduct of life, and thus Dharma is the way of life embodying the truth perceived. Dharma is usually distinguished into Sadharan Sadharan Dharma and Varnashram Dharma. Sadharan Dharma refers to the duties of the universal scope and validity. There are 10 cardinal virtues known as Sadharan Dharma according to Manu: endurance, patience, self-control, integrity, purity, restraint of senses, wisdom, learning, truth, and absence of anger and non-violence. The Varnashram Dharma refers to the duties of persons according to the caste and the stages of life. Thus, Dharma is considered to be the means for attaining personal integration in the spiritual levels or liberation. Artha wealth. The term Artha generally indicates the attainment of riches and worldly prosperity, advantage, profit, and wealth. It means the whole range of tangible objects that can be possessed, enjoyed, or lost, and which we require in daily life for the upkeep of a household, raising of a family, and discharge of religious duties. By the term Artha, Kautilya in his book Artha Shastra 4:9 means 4:9 means both economic and the political aspect of man's life in the society. The materialistic aspects of life have great significance because the absence of economic well-being of men is a great hindrance to the pursuit of personality integration and good life. Absence of economic well-being may also lead a man to adopt or to do immoral deeds to satisfy himself. The Mahabharata stresses the great importance of wealth, stating that poverty is a state of sinfulness. All kinds of meritorious acts flow from the possession of great wealth. From wealth springs all religious acts, pleasures, and heaven itself. From wealth one's merit increases, but the man who has no wealth has neither this world nor the next. The man who has no wealth succeeds not in performing religious acts. Kautilya in Arthashastra recommend that the state should punish those who renounce the world without having first satisfied the claims of society and family. Kautilya would not even allow ascetics to enter into the villages of the kingdom for fear that they may cause disturbance in the economic activities of the villagers. Hindu philosophers are not uncritical about the admirers of wealth, nor are they fanatical supporters of its evolution. They say virtues themselves are impractical without wealth. Without wealth, neither virtue nor desire can be won. Kama, satisfaction of desires. Kama is a comprehensive term which includes all desires ranging from the cravings of the flesh and the uh, yearnings of the spirit. The Hindu view is that man should only gradually overcome the insistent cravings of the flesh. The only human end is the attainment of pleasures, and the Hindu view holds very strongly, and it is an accepted principle that any spiritual aspirant should not try to achieve his realization by forcibly starving his normal biological desires. That is to say, he should not suppress the desires of the flesh very violently. In Hindu thought, that there is always a clear emphasis on the enjoyment of secular pleasures along with the emphasis on the realization of spiritual values. Vatsyayana in his book Kama Sutras gives a great treatise on erotic enjoyment. It deals with the various aspects of sex life and the natural strivings of human heart. However, Vatsyayana suggests that the satisfactions of sexual desires are to be followed with moderation and causation. Hindu philosophers do not exclude any one of the branches of human enjoyment, sex or arts, singing, playing, or musical instruments, dancing, writing, drawing, tattooing, coloring the hair fall, and so on. The uniqueness of the concept of karma and enjoyment in the Hindu ethics is that all of them are to be related to the spiritual goal of human existence, and so the Indian ethics insisted on a regulated enjoyment. Moksha, liberation. In every school of philosophy in India, the first three Purusharthas are treated as the instrumental values which directly or indirectly promote the Param Purushartha, the highest value of human life, namely moksha. Moksha is also known as by other names such as Mukti, mm, Apavarya, Kaivalya, and Nirvana. The concept moksha has a negative as well as a positive side. In its negative aspect, it signifies complete freedom from sorrow, and in its positive aspect, it stands for the plenary happiness or bliss. In the Vedic age, the idea of mukti was not in evidence. What the Vedic man short was length of days and days on earth and life in heaven in company with gods, but is it was in the Upanishads for the first time we find the full-fledged doctrine of mukti or liberation. This liberation is intimately bound up with the karma sanskar, the doctrine of transmigration. Almost all Indian schools of thought accepted the theory of karma and rebirth, and the ideal of moksha is conceived as liberation from the cycle of birth and death. As an ideal, moksha is pursued by the individual as a personal value. It is the spiritual perfection understood by the intellect, loved by the will and actualized in the daily life. It is understood as Jivan Mukti in Advait Vedanta. Man who has attained liberation in this life is called Jivan Mukta. Different schools propose different ways to attain moksha. Advait Vedanta of Sankara holds that knowledge or Gyan is the means of attaining moksha. Here, moksha refers not to a new state to be attained, but it is the realization of what has always been, namely the realization of the universal self. Brahman is one's own self, Atman. For this, no morality is needed. The dualistic and pluralistic system insists that the bondage of the individual can be removed by the bhakti marg or path of devotion to God. There is another way promoted by the Gita to attain the ultimate realization in life and liberation from the cycle of births and deaths, which is known as Karma Yoga, path of activity. The Gita has described this way as the method of disinterested action, Niskam Karma. To attain moksha, one has to be freed from the bondage to one's own action. Thus, the Gita suggests the golden rule that actions should be done with the spirit of non-attachment to their fruits. For all this understanding of moksha, one thing is clear, that moksha cannot be reacted by bypassing morality or ignoring it, and a good life is indispensable and absolutely necessary for attaining spiritual perfection and moksha. Social stratification. Varnashram dharma. Varna dharma stands for social stratification or caste system. Before getting into discussion on the four caste system, we need to discuss the evolution of the jivatma. Jivatma is the human person. The evolution of jivatma is divided into four great stages. These four stages are universal and common to all human beings, irrespective of caste, creed, color. The first stage is that which embraces the infancy, childhood, and the youth of the jivatma. During this stage, he is only fit for service and duty. The and scarcely he has any responsibilities. The second stage in the first half of his manhood, during which he carries on the ordinary business of the world. He bears the burden of household responsibilities such as accumulation, enjoyment, and proper disposal of wealth, together with the heavy duties of organizing, training, and educating his younger ones in all the duties of life. The third stage occupies the second half of his manhood, during which he bears the burden of national responsibilities, the duty of protecting, guiding, ruling, and subordinating his individual interest to the common good, even to the willing sacrifice of his own life for the lives around him. The fourth stage is the old age of the jivatma. In this stage, he accumulated experiences teach him to see clearly the valuelessness of all earth's treasures, and thus in this stage he becomes rich in wisdom, compassion. He becomes the selfless friend of all, the teacher and counselor of all his younger ones. These four stages are universal and they are the foundation of a social polity. They have been represented by four external castes or classes. The first stage is represented by Sudra caste, in which the rules are few and the responsibilities are light. The one great duty of Shudra caste is service, and the virtues of the Shudra caste are obedience, fidelity, reverence, and justice like that of a youth in his pupils. The second stage is represented by the Vaisya, the typical householder on whom the social life of the nation depends. He comes under strict he comes under strict rules designed to foster unselfishness and the sense of responsibility to nourish detachment in the mildest of positions. He is made to feel the nation as his household. His virtues are diligence, caution, prudence, discretion, and chastity uh, and charity. The third stage is represented by the Kshatriya, the ruler warrior on whom depends the national order and safety. He also lives under strict rules intended to draw out all the energy and strength of his character and to turn them to unselfish ends, and to make him feel that everything he possesses, even life itself, must be thrown away at the call of duty. Her virtues are generosity, vigor, courage, strength, power to rule, and self-control. The fourth stage is represented by the Brahmana, the teacher and the priest who lives under the strictest of all rules directed to him a center of purifying influence, physically, morally, and spiritually. He must be devoted to study and he must be learned and wise. He is to be the refuge of all creatures and their sure help in the time of need. His virtues are gentleness, patience, purity, self-sacrifice, Jayanti Jivatma, human person in any nation at any time who shows these types of virtues belong to the stages of which his type is characteristics. If he were to be born in India as a Hindu, he should be born into the corresponding caste. Throughout the world, we can see that the broad dividing lines of classes follow these lines of caste system in India. The manual labor class proletariat western terms should consist of jivatmas in the Shuddha stage. The organizers of industry, merchants, bankers, financiers, large agriculturists, traders should be jivatmas in the Vaisya stage. The legislatures, warriors, the judicial and administrative services, the statesmen and rulers should be jivatmas in the Kshatriya stage, and the teachers, clergy, the spiritual leaders should be jivatmas in the Brahman stage. There are three gunas: quality of human mind. The human beings, according to these innate qualities, fall under one of the four castes. These three gunas are sattvas, rajas, and tamas. Sattva real is the noblest guna. The word sattva means that which exists, that is real. It is the principle of goodness, happiness, bliss, luminously, and knowledge. Manifestation of consciousness is due to sattva gunas. The Brahmins are those in whom the sattva and sattvika qualities are very much dominant. Rajas foulness is the principle of activity, energy, motion. It leads to a life of feverish enjoyment and restless effort. Those people in whom sattva and rajas qualities are powerful are called kshatriyas. Tamas, darkness, is the principle of inertia, matter, resistance, passivity, negativity. It resists activity and produces the state of apathy or indifference. It leads to ignorance and sloth. Those people in whom rajas and tamas qualities are prominent are called Vaisyas, and those people in whom tamas is very dominant are called Sudras. According to Manusmriti, this caste system functioned as the superstructure both in the legitimation and delineation of moral life. In order to protect the universe, the human beings are assigned separate duties and occupations according to their caste. Purusha Sukta speaks about the whole universe as the manifestation of the universal self called Purush. The Brahmans sprang from the mouth of the universal self. The Kshatriyas sprang from his two arms. The Vaisyas sprang from his two thighs, and finally the Sudras sprang from the feet of the universal self, Brahman. Since mouth is the seat of speech, it stands for learning, arms stands for strength, and thighs stands for productive works. Feet stands for other works of labor. Thus, the duties and functions are assigned to the four castes by the very nature of their worth. In Bhagavad Gita, we read that the four castes were emanated by me by the different distribution of energies and actions. Know me to be know me to be the author of them. Rigveda, we see the Brahmana was his mouth. The Rajanaya was made of his two, two arms, and the Vaishya was made of his two thicks. The Shudra was born from his 2 feet. In Manusmriti, we read 87 to 91 about the occupation of each caste very clearly. Teachings and studying the Veda, sacrificing and guiding others in offering sacrifices, gifts, and receiving of gifts are assigned to the Brahmanas. To the protection of the people, bestowing of gifts, offering sacrifices, studying the Vedas, not teaching, practicing non-attachment amid the objects of the senses are assigned to Kshatriyas. The protection of cattle, bestowing gifts, sacrificing, studying the Vedas, not teaching, involving in commerce, banking, and agriculture are assigned to the Vaisyas, and finally, serving the mm, three castes uh, ungrudgingly is assigned to the Sudras. Thus, the teaching of Vedas is only assigned to the Brahmanas, but the duty of studying the Vedas is assigned to Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaisyas, who are regarded as the twice born because they have undergone the intimation ceremony, Upanayan, which is the right to study the Vedas. Since the Sudras are not mentally equipped, they are denied of Upanayan, but yet the Shudra is eligible for receiving the knowledge about Vedas through secondary sources like Puranas and Itihasas. Manusmriti says a man who does not show forth the dharma of his caste is not regarded as belonging to his caste. If they do not practice their own duties, they only bear the names around as Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaisyas, and again Manu says X65 the Sudras became the Brahmana and the Brahmana became the Sudra by their very conduct. So to it applies to a Kshatriya and Vaisyas in Mahabharata were one parv uh, uh, CL XXX 21, 25, 26 period, the man is called a Brahmana when in him there are truthfulness, forgiveness, good conduct, gentleness, austerity, and mercy. If they are not found in him, he is not a Brahmana. He is regarded as a Sudra. So also, if these qualities are found in a Shudra, he is not a Shudra but a Brahmana. Sri Sridharan Sridharan Swami says, by birth everyone is Sudra, but by Shankara, he becomes a twice born, and even then Brahmanas and others are to be recognized by Sham and other qualities, and not by their birth alone. The famous shloka in Mahabharata Banparva uh, says, not birth, not samskaras, not study of Vedas, not ancestry are the causes of Brahmanhood. Conduct alone is verily the cause of Brahmanhood. So everyone can attain Brahmanhood by their conduct. For example, Valmiki, Vyas, Vasishtha, and Narada, who were all the children of Sudras. Ethics in Buddhism. Ethics in Buddhism brings about the Four Noble Truths and Eightfold Paths as the way of life intended for all people. This way of life is offered to all mankind without any distinction. This is the moral foundation of Buddhist ethics. Core of Buddhist belief is contained in the Four Noble Truths. The core is that there exists suffering and there is a way to escape suffering. Number A, life is full of suffering. Number B, cause of suffering is desire or craving. And number C, eliminating suffering is liberation. And the final is the means for attaining nirvana is eightfold path. The Eightfold Path as follows: the right knowledge and Four Noble Truths. Right aim towards salvation. Right speech. Right speech reflect our character. We need to avoid speaking false, slanderous, belifting words. Right conduct: no killing, stealing, lying, committing illicit sexual acts, consuming of alcohol. Right livelihood: having the profession of good nature, no butchering, slave dealer, prostitutes, and trading of weapons. Right efforts: one must have will power to burn desires and develop virtues. Right mindfulness: one must examine his behavior and the thoughts from which it comes. By improving awareness, one can become virtuous. Right meditation: proper mental physical preparation helps a person to attain nirvana. Salvation comes only from following four noble truths and eightfold path. No god, no ritual, and no type of outside power can save humanity. Buddhist ethics are not arbitrary standards invented by man for his own utilitarian purposes, nor are they arbitrary imposed from without. Man-made laws and social customs do not form the basis of Buddhist ethics. Mm, Buddhist ethics finds its foundation not on the changing social customs but rather on the unchanging laws of nature. Buddhist ethical virtues are intrinsically a part of nature and the unchanging laws of cause and effect. The Buddhist ethics are based on and rooted in natural law, and so in principles becomes useful and acceptable to the modern world. Morality in Buddhism is essentially practical, and it is only a means leading to a final goal of ultimate happiness. Buddhist ethics are not founded on any commandments which men are compelled to follow. The Buddha advised men on the conditions which are most wholesome and conducive to long-term benefit for self and others. The theory of Buddhist ethics finds its practical expression in the various precepts. These precepts or discipline are nothing but general guides to show the direction in which the Buddhist ought to turn to on his way to find salvation. The morality found in all the principles can be summarized in three principles: to avoid evils, to do good, to purify the mind, to make distinction between what is good and what is evil. Buddhism says whatever actions that have their roots in greed, hatred, and delusion, and that springs from selfishness are called bad. They are called akusal karma. Akusal karma, and all those actions which are rooted in the virtues of generosity, love, and wisdom are meritorious and good. They are called kushal karma. Ethics in Jainism. In general, Jain morality consists in the essential observance of Pancha Mahavratas. Pancha Mahavratas, which are the ingredients of the right conduct. For the attainment of moksha, Jainism prescribes the threefold paths known as uh, the Triratna, three jewels. They are right faith, Samyak Darshan, Samyak knowledge, Samyak Gyan, right knowledge, and right conduct, Samyak Charitra. All these three are essential for the attainment of moksha, but Jainism gives primary importance to the third, without which it is useless to observe and former two. The threefold path as moral values for moksha. From the practical point of view, Jainism necessarily invites us to have firm belief in the seven principles. Belief in the seven principles is known as right path, right faith. The seven principles are: नंबर वन सोल जीवा, नंबर दो नॉन सोल अजीब, नंबर दो इनफ्लो आश्रवा, नंबर फोर बॉन्डेज बंधा, नंबर फाइव चेकिंग संवार, नंबर सेवन शील्डिंग निर्जरा, number seven liberation moksha. All the objects and modifications of the universe comes under the first two principles. Souls and non-souls, feeling, perception, consciousness are found in the impure soul. Body is included in the non-soul. Pain and its cause are described by the two principles: inflow and bondage. Cessation of pain is liberation. The means of cessation is included in the other two principles: checking and shielding. Setting the god and bad activities of mind, body, and speech are the causes for the inflow of karmic matter. These activities are the causes for bondage. Removing this bondage is liberation. That means to remove the bondage is checking and shielding the bad activities. This is the way to attain moksha. Now coming to the eight knowledge. It is nothing but having right knowledge about the seven principles mentioned above. Right conduct means Right conduct means giving up bad engagements and following good engagements. Five woes, five carefulness, and three restraints have been said to be practical conduct mm, by Jinn. Five woes are called Pancha Mahavtaras. They are non-injury, ahimsa, the truth, satya, non-stealing, asteya, chastity, brahmacharya, and non-possession, aparigraha. Five carefulness are called five samiti. They are carefulness in walking, speaking, eating, handling, and casting refuse. Three restraints are called three gupti. They are control over mind, body, and speech. These 13 kinds of conduct are for the monks and for monks from the practical point of view, but whether the householder or a monk, he has to follow Panch Panch Mahavratas faithfully. Among these five vows, ahimsa is given a very wide connotations in Jainism. Ahimsa is to be practical not only in deed but also in thoughts and words. Keeping ill will against anyone in thought or speaking harsh words to anyone is also ahimsa. It is equal to inflicting any bodily injury to anybody. Even forcing someone to do something against his will is himsa. Similarly, causing injury to someone due to negligence is also himsa. Practicing ahimsa in Jainism is not very easy. It is a kind of tapas. Sometimes the Jains to go to the extreme of not burning light or cooking meal after sunset, so that no bombs could be attracted towards light and thereby killed. Thus, Jainism, in line with Buddhism and Hinduism, and in more stringent manner prescribe virtues meant for internal purity of the individual to lead him ultimately to moksha. However, social virtues like love, compassion, etc. are not neglected in Jainism. The three virtues of Mahavratas, non-injury, truthfulness, and non-stealing, show the direct concern of the Jainas for social virtues. Hedonism in ethos of Charvaka. In tune with Buddhism and Jainism, it characterizes the Vedic ritualism and ceremonialism. Charvaka school is the most ardent and truthless critic of the Vedas in its ethical teaching. Charvaka is equated with Epicurean and hedonism. hedonism. According to this school, attaining and enjoying maximum pleasure in this life is the only goal of men, because there is no other world or life beyond the present one. The Charvaka system says the Vedas have falsely and deceitfully shown the attraction of heaven, for the attainment of which various kind of rituals and sacrifices are prescribed. The Charvakas make fun of and ridicule all Vedic prescriptions regarding rituals and sacrifices. According to them, these are all innovations of the Brahmins to deceive people and to serve their own selfish ends. But the Charvak system is purely materialistic, hedonistic, and anti-Vedic doctrine, and so it has very little impact on the general spiritualistic trend of the Hindu ethical ideas. It never had any recognizable effect on the moral thinking of the Indian people. Let us sum up to conclude. The essential Buddhist virtues and Jainas virtues consist respectively mm, in Panchasil and Panch Mahabhartas. Both Buddhism and Jainism gave their virtues of individual purity. They give more emphasis on the individual morality. Buddhism and Jainism reject Vedic ceremonialism and ritualism, and they do not speak of Varnashram Dharma of Hinduism. They both prescribe qualities of character and conduct which are equally applicable to all. They make distinction only between the duties of an ordinary man and those of a monk. Thank you.